Hello once again. So in the previous video or previous part, I have shown how to permute a string, and in the string we have seen that we are basically doing what we are keeping track of a prefix and we are keeping track of a suffix. Okay. So the idea for the array is also same. So the prefix of this array first is an empty array. Then we add this one over here, and we recursively call for the rest. And once again we put 2 in the prefix and we recursively call 1 and 3 and so on. So for array, what the problem is, we have to understand for the string what we have done over here. If you look at the code, is we just concatenated this and concatenated this. So for string it is possible because string is such a data structure where this concatenation stuff is possible, but for an array it is not so, because let's say this 2 is given at current prefix and we have to pass this 1 and 3 as the next suffix to our recursive call. So is it possible to like take 1 from here and take 3 from here and then concatenate and make a new array or new list and pass it? So that's not possible. So what in this case we will do is, we will, whenever this is coming as a prefix, we will do what? We will swap this element with this element. So the array will become now 213. So we can easily take 2 as the prefix part, and as suffix part we can easily pass the 1 and 3. So after the whole recursive call, then we have to swap it again to make it the original array. So we have to do 2 swaps, and in between we are going to call the recursive function. So this is pretty much the idea. So let's now go to the code editor and code it so we can understand it a little bit better. So let me zoom in it a little bit, because sometimes in phone it is not quite visible what I am writing on the code editor. So first of all, we have to do one as usual check, that if it is not empty, if length of num is 0, that means what? We have to simply return empty. Now we will take one uh, class member, or rather using one object, a variable called result, which will be a list, and after that recursion call we will simply return self.result, and in the middle we will just call the permute function or recursive function. Let's call it permute rec for recursive, and here we will be passing nums, the original array, the index. This index is what basically is, first of all, let's think of this for a moment, that as I said we have to swap the values, right? So for swaps, now first this element will be swapped with this element itself, then this element will be swapped with this element itself, and same as this for this element also. So that's why we are getting this 1 2 3 as the first output. Then we will swap this 2 with 1, then 2 will come at beginning, and then we will do the rest of the processing. So these are the way we are going to implement this function. So that's why first the index with which the elements will be swapped is initially 0. So for that reason I have written over here is 0. So now let's just define this function called permute rec. So control V. Here first argument will be self, then will be nums, then will be an index called start. So I have to write down over here def. So for this also I will be writing down the base case little bit later to make you guys clear that how I am thinking about the base case. So here also there will be one loop I in range. It will be starting from 0 and going to length of nums. Okay, so now first we will be swapping the index of I and index of start. So initially the index of start is 0 and index of I is also 0. So that what I was telling, that first the index itself will be swapped with itself. So that's why we will just swap So swapping in Python is easy. That is nums of I and nums of start will be swapped. So nums of start comma nums of I. Now we will be recursively calling the function, this function, control V, on nums comma start plus 1. So now we will be incrementing the start to second element. So for this call, whenever we are going to this function again, then also we have, for the first case we cannot understand anything. For the second case, let's think 2 is over here, 2 is at the beginning after swap, and 1 is over here. So after the function call, the start will be now 1. So now again this element will be swapped with this element. So like this, if you just draw the recursive tree by yourself, just follow the recursion steps, you can understand. For me, without drawing, it's a little bit difficult to make you understand, but I hope after seeing the code you can make it clear by drawing the tree yourself. So after the recursive call, we have to swap these elements again to retain the previous element. So this part we are actually doing what, we are doing backtracking. So using backtracking, we are restoring the previous state of the array. So after swap, we are getting back the previous array. So this step is doing the backtrack. So after completing this part, now we have to define the base case. So now let's think about the base case. When do our recursion stops? So let's say this start this start is greater than or equal to length of nums. So this means what? After incrementing start from 0 to 1 to 2, now it has gone past it. That means what? All the possibilities of swapping, of making just permutations of each and another element is over. So that means we have gone through every element and every swap, every possible swap. Now we just have to add our results to the array. So with the array which is called result. So here also one another catch is there. For the strings, we can simply add the string as it is, because we are not actually changing the structure of the string, we are just concatenating it. But here we are swapping and changing the structure. So next time we will be retaining its structure. So we have to make a deep copy of the current state of the string. So how do we make a deep copy? We will, let's say, take a temp and pass it in the list function and pass it nums. So this is how we are making a deep copy, and this will be now appended in our result. Dot append, the answer would be 10. So after that we have to simply return. So this is our code. So now let's run it. So okay, so here we can see we are getting some wrong errors. Oh, okay, so by mistake I have done something wrong. So here we can see many repeating values coming, like 312, here also 312, and many more. Like we are expected to have 6 values because the length is 3, but we are having more than that. So why is that? So here I have by mistakenly made one bug which is beneficial for you guys to understand this algorithm better, because by fixing this bug you can clearly see how this algorithm is working. So here we don't have to iterate from 0 to length of nums, we have to iterate from start, which is indeed 0 at the first function call. So we have to iterate from start, because of I am doing every time from 0. So after swap also it's coming from 0 and taking all the values again into consideration. So that's why repetitions are coming. So we are not maintaining that prefix and suffix thing which I was telling about. So that's why it will be from start. So now I'm sure this code will work. So as you can see, it's accepted. So let me submit it, and also tell you one thing, that I have not mentioned some, so it's accepted. So I have not mentioned some things over here while telling you the time complexity of this algorithm of permuted string. So it's order of n factorial, and space is also order of n factorial for both arrays and strings. But for lexicographical order, we are sorting it. So we have to take also n log n into consideration, So it will be order of n factorial plus order of log n log n, and also just because we are printing it, it will be order of n into n factorial plus order of n log n for this question, and for this question it will be order of n into n factorial in time complexity, because we have to print it and also generate the permutations, and order of or big O of n factorial for space complexity. So this is the two problems, and these two problems are strictly when there are no duplicates allowed. So as it's mentioned over here, only distinct elements. So there can be one problem again also, where there are duplicate allowed. So I will be covering that in the next video. So thank you for watching.